I think we all know that there's something deeply wrong with how social networks on the internet are working. Whether it's the steady stream of revelations about how our personal information is harvested and sold for profit, how hate speech is allowed to flourish, or how the response to hate speech has been to deprive people of their right to speak, there's hardly anyone who feels that our social networks are working in their best interest. That's why today I want to talk about the technological solutions that we at Steemit have developed and continue to develop in an attempt to solve these problems and move us all toward a more open, decentralized, and free future. A future in which people are motivated to engage in constructive conversations as opposed to sacrificing their privacy for the privilege of engaging in angry and divisive screaming matches. Given recent events, let's talk about hate speech first. Nobody wants their social networks to be a fertile breeding ground for evil individuals or organizations. The response of the major social media platforms has been effectively to create internal committees that operate in a top-down manner to ban those accounts they believe to be producing hate speech. This is what we call a centralized approach. Believe it or not, one of the keys to Facebook and Twitter's success is their centralization. Just holding on to all the social information of billions of people requires an incredible amount of infrastructure, which costs an unfathomable amount of money. Maintaining total control and ownership of that infrastructure was key both to scaling their operations as well as generating revenue through the sale of the information stored on that very infrastructure. For now, let's put aside the moral hazard that results from an entirely ad-based revenue model and maintain focus on this issue of centralization. This centralization is what enabled these organizations to scale so rapidly while also constantly A/B testing and iterating their website so that they could accelerate toward an ever-improving product market fit. In short, being centralized enables these sites to do whatever they want, and that enables them to move fast and scale fast and create incredibly addictive applications. It also allows them to respond to threats fast. For example, when there's dangerous hate speech on their platform, they can quickly remove the speech and the person whenever they want. The problem with this approach can be boiled down to 3 facts. First, the only people worth removing from your platform are those with significant followings. Second, that extreme rhetoric is a great way to grow a following on platforms that focus on eyeballs as the key metric as opposed to value. And third, removing anyone with extreme views and significant followings only turns them into a martyr and empowers them to promote a narrative of persecution and unfairness. We saw that with Alex Jones. This is an attack vector that centralized organizations are not capable of solving, which is why the situation continues to get worse and worse with no end in sight. The fundamental problem with centralized systems is that they are extremely difficult to make provably fair. But as we'll see, the only way to do that is to become more open and decentralized, which would conflict with everything that makes these internet giants so successful. One solution to this problem of hate speech is to build a platform that just promises a hands-off approach to censorship. But a promise to not regulate speech comes with its own set of problems as exemplified by Gab.com, which as of the time of this recording has been made inaccessible for days, presumably due to the fact that it was used by a recent shooter to publish certainly angry and hateful speech. Gab's solution is another centralized platform, but with a promise not to censor. That might sound good to some on the surface. However, when you think it through, it's equally untenable. The value of social networks comes from network effects. Facebook doesn't offer any especially revolutionary features aside from the fact that practically everyone on Earth is already using it. That's precisely why it's the most valuable social network on the planet. That means that if a person is going to join a social network, all things being equal, they will derive the most value from joining Facebook. So if you offer a Facebook or Twitter alternative premised entirely on the fact that you will not censor anyone who uses your platform, then your network will only be able to provide more value than Facebook to people who are incapable of using Facebook, like those who've been banned. While I'm sure there are some good people and outlets that were collateral damage in what's been called Facebook's Great Purge, the group as a whole is probably not one that most people are eager to join. That's why the majority of these platforms inevitably become safe havens for hateful rhetoric. So if the solution isn't centralization or simply promising not to censor any speech, what is it? The solution we pioneered with the release of the Steem blockchain over 2 years ago is one that leverages new decentralized technologies like blockchain to create a provably fair and transparent system that empowers the crowd of users themselves to self-regulate what content is hidden from view and what content is financially rewarded. On the one hand, everyone is free to store their text-based speech on the Steem blockchain, and no one can remove that speech, ever. In this sense, content posted to Steem is extremely censorship resistant. There is, however, a distinction between information that is stored on Steem and information that is displayed on Steem interfaces like Steemit.com, which has become the most used blockchain-powered interface on the planet. While anyone is free to store their speech on Steem, any Steem developer is also free to display or not display that information on their site. This constitutes yet another layer of decentralization. While someone's speech might be censored on one interface, there are now many other interfaces available to that user like busy.org or steampeak.com, which will be regulated by their own community's social norms. An added benefit of this decentralization is that if one platform is taken down or just breaks, users will still be able to access their content through other platforms. The fact that Gab.com has, at the time of this recording, been inaccessible for days proves the dangers associated with centralized control over even free speech platforms. And if none of these communities using these varied interfaces want specific speech to be displayed, well, maybe it's hate speech after all. But the speech will still be preserved on the blockchain, and anyone who believes that speech is being unreasonably censored on every existing interface is free to launch their own and display that speech. Because Steem is the only blockchain protocol built from the ground up to power web applications, developers can leverage all the mature and state-of-the-art web development tools that have been created over the last 20 years to rapidly launch their own blockchain-powered interface in days as opposed to years. Probably the most important and underrated aspect of Steem's regulatory mechanism for hate speech is what we call proof of brain. Steem tokens are the native currency of the blockchain, and these tokens are distributed entirely based on the upvotes and downvotes of the Steem users themselves. Effectively, there are two abilities relating to free speech embedded into the crypto economics of Steem. There is the ability to post whatever information you want to the blockchain, and there's the ability to earn valuable tokens, Steem, in exchange for sharing that information. If you get enough upvotes from enough people, you earn Steem tokens, which have been valued as highly as $8 a token. If you get enough downvotes, you won't earn anything, and interfaces like Steemit.com might even hide your content from other users just as it does with spam. In fact, from the perspective of the blockchain, there's no meaningful distinction between hate speech and spam. Both are just content that has no value or even negative value to users. While the ability to deprive people of rewards is certainly an effective regulatory mechanism for encouraging good behavior, what's more important is that there's a strong economic incentive to create sufficiently inoffensive content. This is what other centralized free speech platforms just don't get. A system for providing value to ordinary people, value beyond that which is offered by Facebook. What many of the newest members of the free speech bandwagon fail to appreciate is that the right to free speech is premised on the fact that we're all created equal. Every voice matters just as every life matters, and we believe that everyone deserves the opportunity to earn value for sharing their valuable thoughts. That includes Democrats, Republicans, moderates, nice people, not just the people so angry no one else wants them. Ironically, welcoming everyone into an open attention economy is the only way to truly protect free speech. So now that you understand how Steem works, ask yourself, on a platform full of diverse individuals from all walks of life, each equipped with the ability to vote on whether content is valuable or not, like hate speech, what kind of content is going to be rewarded and what kind of content is going to die? Whether you agree with this system or not, no one can deny that it is provably fair, and that is where its strength lies. My goal with this video was to give you a better understanding of how websites are currently struggling to deal with the issue of hate speech, and explain how we've developed Steam to address the problems with their approaches. Another big problem with existing platforms is that they are entirely dependent on ad-based revenue, which means that they have no choice but to turn their users into their product. I hope to explore that issue in a future video, so be sure to subscribe, and thanks for watching.